again with each other.
Now, once again, we do have Philip Schulz against Chrisowalantis Amanatidis, and this is just going to be, I believe, 2 German players going up against each other head-to-head in the second round of day 1 action. Both of these players 1-0 coming into this round. Of course, you do not want to take an early loss here. Taking an early loss would just make your journey so much more difficult throughout the weekend.
Absolutely. The earlier you can get these wins, the better, because it also means that if you're able to close out, you can just watch other players and see all their strategies and their decks in the last couple rounds. If you can just close out, you don't have to play anymore. You can just, you actually won't be given up an opponent anymore once you've hit in that perfect spot, and you can just watch all these other guys and sit with the day 2 competitors and finally take a breath.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Philip would love to play with, or hang out with Robin while, you know, they're waiting, yeah, while they're waiting for day 2 to begin. All right, both of these players still waiting to give to be given the thumbs up, but it looks like we're just about ready to kick things off. And we do actually want to mention that we've been mentioning that I believe 21 match points was what people were required, but it's not. You want 18 match points because it's an 8-round event and not a 9-round event. So if you can get to 18 match points, you will have enough match points to be able to qualify for day 2.
Yep, so that 6-2 record is what all these players are going to be looking for. 5-0-3 will also get you there. A little more awkward to do, but of course can be done. We've seen players get to that 501 spot, and if they can just find the right players to ID with, then they're going to be able to punch their ticket into the second day.
Both of these players still waiting to be given the thumbs up to start things off, but before we do, I do want to at least talk about the potential matchup here.
Yeah, this is a very cool. So Philip is playing an interesting style of this Reshiram and Charizard GX deck. He plays multiple copies of Ninetales, so he's going to be able to manipulate which Pokemon is in the active spot. And,
sure.
That's something that really hasn't been done since Guzma, apart from Custom Catcher, which is such a weird card to play. It's pretty difficult to get both of those pieces at the right time. You're usually looking to close out a game. If your opponent has a reset stamp, they're going to drop you to a real low hand, and it's just easier to rely on finding multiple energies or a fire crystal than it is to find 2 pieces of Custom Catcher a lot of the time.
Now, with that said, how exactly do you feel this matchup plays out between that Gardevoir and Sylveon GX, which we really don't see very much of, and of course the powerhouse that's Reshiram and Charizard GX?
Yeah, it really just depends if Philip has the top decks to get through not having a hand anymore. If he can get through that, then he can be in a pretty great spot. But if we see Philip just draw pass after losing his hand, that's really what decides the game pretty much.
Well, it looks like the handshake is underway, so we will be kicking things off here between Chrisowalantis and Philip here, as we are ready to kick things off here in round 2 between both of these German players. And we see, I believe, Philip start things off here. We see a Cherish Ball right away.
And immediately we see that Jirachi. That means that this is not going to be a list that uses Green's Exploration. He's going for the more aggressive approach. He can use Stellar Wishes multiple times. If he has skateboards, he can switch around with all these Jirachis and start to find the right items to get him through any particular setup. He's immediately, we see cards like that, the Pokegear along with the Cherish Ball. Pretty great cards to see in the opening hand.
Now, upon seeing that that he had a heavy Ninetales line, we knew that he was going to go for a more aggressive route with Jirachi.
Right.
Now, the thing is going to be, you know, he's no longer going to have like the tools that we're used to seeing from these green Reshiram decks, which, you know, tend to be playing for a longer game. Instead, he's going to be choosing to just be aggressive, be manipulative when it comes to who Chrisowalantis is going to be able to attack with, and manipulate the prizes he can take because of having a one-sided, you know, for example, gust of wind style effects. If you can go all the way back to the 1990s,
I can. I remember it well, and it has always been a very powerful effect. Another powerful effect, however, is that Welder. It's a huge card, getting him all those energies into play, and we already see a pretty threatening Reshiram and Charizard tag team getting set up on the bench there.
Not a bad way to kick things off, right? A couple of energy on your Reshiram and Charizard. You haven't even attached for the turn. You're finding a Dedenne with your Cherish Ball, I mean, this is almost better than what you wrote up when you were, dreaming up this deck.
Right? Yeah, this is a pretty great start for Philip. He is going to be using cards like that Dedenne early in the game, which is kind of good, kind of bad. You want to obviously get a huge setup, but if you don't have cards to draw into after your opponent uses their GX attack from that the Gardevoir and Sylveon, it can be really difficult to come back. He does have Jirachi, however, which could potentially find him ways out of it, which is something that the Greens versions do not have. They have no access to their deck other than the top decks.
Now, the interesting thing about Chrisowalantis' deck is that he literally only plays Gardevoir and Sylveon as his Pokemon.
That's all you need.
So it's a very straightforward game plan. Your opponent knows exactly what you're going to be able to pull off, and you're just hoping that he won't be able to do anything with that knowledge. And we're now seeing a second setup here from Jirachi, Stellar Wish here from Jirachi, as it's going to allow him to find a couple of trainer cards throughout this first turn, as he hasn't completed it despite having 3 energy on his Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX.
Yeah, what a strong turn. Also able to find that Hearth form as well, so has access to more fire energies. If he wanted to use his Ninetales effect, of course he would have that available, but honestly, one Gardevoir and Sylveon is probably going to be just the same as the other, just probably going to be attacking the active Pokemon for the majority of this game here.
Couple of escape boards to go with it. I mean, he's really got it all, right?
Oh, yeah.
He has, I don't even know what he's missing at this point. And now it's up to Chrisowalantis here to actually figure things out and see what he can come up with, as we're now seeing the end of Philip's first turn and the beginning of Chrisowalantis' first turn himself. And this is where you have to kind of mitigate the damage that Philip's deck is going to be able to deal to you from the second turn on, and hope that you can just outlast it.
Yep, we'll see what he's able to come up with here. Starts off with that spinner. See what else he's really got going for him.
This Fairy Tag Team, so powerful, 260 hit points, can accelerate your energy, and it has a lot going for it, but does it have anything to be able to deal with the raw power of Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team, a Pokemon that has just threatened to be the most dominant force in the game ever since its release, and does not seem to be slowing down with this new format.
So immediately we see all those energies coming down. We're going to see some pretty streamlined turns from Chrisowalantis on this opening setup. He really just wants to get energies into play and start to find some things. He did thin out before using this, so he's going to get to see 4 cards. Unable to find another Gardevoir and Sylveon, however.
I mean, if it really comes down to, like, if he can ever Magical Miracle, for example, and Magical Miracle GX, and just force your opponent to having no hand, then at that point, Philip is still going to have access to things like Jirachi's abilities, right?
Yeah.
Stellar Wish to kind of climb his way out of that. It seems like this matchup, at least in theory, might be favored for for Philip here, but we'll have to wait and see if it's going to be that way in action, as well, as we see that that Jirachi's still asleep here as Philip begins his own second turn of the game.
Yep. So that Wondrous Labyrinth in play means that we're going to need to see extra energy attachments from Philip in order to get relevant attacks off, or if he was able to find a counter stadium, that'd be very helpful for him here. Unfortunately for Chrisowalantis, he was not able to find another bench Pokemon. So along with the threat of potentially being knocked out on a turn like this, if we were able to see a huge Welder play, he doesn't have anywhere to accelerate energies for Fairy Song, so he wasn't able to do anything with his opening turn. Super unfortunate. And we saw right away that Philip was just going to shuffle in a Welder with that Pal Pad. He wants to find Welders so that he can get all these energies onto the Reshiram and Charizard. If he uses his GX attack and can get rid of that Stadium card, he's in a spot where he can just clean this game up.
Well, will he find it? We're seeing another Stellar Wish.
There's
Finds the Welder.
Hey.
There's a Welder. Does he have energy in hand?
Oh, he's got the Hearth too.
Okay, there is the Hearth. the Hearth Stadium, and now he's countering Chrisowalantis' Stadium, and he finds himself a couple of energies. So that was like the perfect card.
He needs to welder into a fire energy. He's also got Switch available to him, so there might be a card that he could find off Jirachi, like an Acro Bike, something that could find an extra energy for him as well. So we'll have to see if he's able to find the right cards here. Looks like he's going to go for that welder.
There's welder, 2 energy attached onto the Reshiram and Charizard. Does he find a third one?
No.
Does not.
Still looking. It looks like he's checking his discard pile. Oh, he has a fire crystal.
The fire crystal, and that spells the end of game 1 here for Phillips versus Chrisowalantis. That was as fast a turn, as fast a game as we're gonna see this weekend. 2 turns in, and you knock out a tag team GX to seal the deal and take things to game 2.
That's right. Double Blaze, 300 damage, gets right through that huge tag team Pokemon.
Had
like
the
slicing
fire
through
crystal.
butter, man.
He didn't even need that the fire energy. He just needed the fire crystal.
Yep.
Or the fire energy. He found one or the other, and that was enough. It is now a 1-0 record here for Philip as we're going to be shuffling and going into game 2. But you have to believe, after seeing something like this, that Chrisowalantis is just going to need way more help than he can potentially expect to see from just the Gardevoir and Sylveon GX.
Yeah, you have to think that Chrisowalantis was not looking for a matchup like this. He doesn't mind playing against Reshiram and Charizard as long as it's a greens version, because he knows that they could not find the right cards off of his GX attack and put himself in a fantastic spot to just run through every Pokemon he has available. But Philip has answers. He has that Jirachi. He's able to find whatever he needs, and he also has that sheer aggression available to him just in the way that he's built his deck. Chrisowalantis has cards that are good in other matchups. He's got ways to prevent attacks from Ultra Beast, from Lightning Pokemon, GX Pokemon, but nothing really helps him in a matchup like this other than taking away the entire hand. And Philip's like, sure, I'll just go find something better. I've got Pokegears and all sorts of great stuff.
You know, coming into the weekend, it seemed like the consensus was that Green's Reshiram and Charizard was going to be the way to go. People felt like going for just a more consistent, longer game version of the deck was going to be the more powerful way to build it. But we're now seeing the aggression in action, and we're seeing how just strong these cards can be when they're paired with something like Jirachi, able to find you, look through the top 5 cards of your deck and find you any trainer. That's just a really powerful effect when you can do it in multiples and do it every turn of the game. It's a thing of beauty, and it's incredibly fast and incredibly powerful. And Chrisowalantis was just on the receiving end of a major beatdown there from that Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX.
So, Philip starts off with a pretty interesting card of his own. Starts with that Victini Prism Star. It's more of a card that you use to answer Pokemon like Keldeo GX, or shuffle in a lot of your energy cards so that you can start to reset against some decks that play non-GX Pokemon. And instead, he starts with it and goes, oh, well, this is not what I want. I'm going to communication and find myself a Jirachi or something a little more helpful here.
Lucky for him, if there's one thing the deck has, it's a lot of ways for that Victini to go into the bench.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of course, never the optimal Pokemon to start with is that Victini Prism Star there. Finds himself a Jirachi through that Pokemon communication, though. So many different ways for you to really be consistent with this Reshiram Charizard deck.
So did we see Chrisowalantis decide to go second, or did he not have anything?
That's a good question.
Because I can understand wanting to accelerate the energies as early as your first turn, which could be the second turn. That would make sense. It looks like he has 5 cards in hand, so he did not draw for the turn. So yeah, he chose to go second, which we never see.
Right, and we also saw just how poorly that went for him game 1, right? He went second, and Philip's first turn...
he had turn 2, 300.
Yeah, Philip's first turn was 3 energy on Reshiram and Charizard pass. Philip's second turn was good game.
Yeah.
So...
That's my favorite attack.
So for Chrisowalantis to choose to go second here is a very dangerous and very risky play, but at the same time, it can pay off big time if he can accelerate more energy onto the field than Philip's prepared to account for. Now, we see a couple of Cherish Balls here for Philip. First one found himself a Reshiram and Charizard. Second one finds a Dedenne GX. Now, we're likely to see a Dede change here for 6 new cards here from Philip, and that could lead to a very explosive start here from Philip, as we're seeing 3 cards discarded, including a Welder and I believe 2 fire crystals.
Yeah, those are not the cards you want to discard. He'd love to have discarded maybe some fire energies. Would love to see a welder out here as well. I don't think we see that either. He did find himself Giant Hearth, so he has access to a few more of these energies in his deck, but he may have to go digging. He does have Switch plus Jirachi,
Yeah.
so he could do that if he so chooses.
I actually expect to be. I think I expect that to be the play, despite it not being extremely powerful. But he just wants to hopefully start setting up a more powerful second turn than he's going to have here on his first. It's close though. He chooses to play Cherish Ball and find himself another Reshiram and Charizard.
Yep, this Reshiram and Charizard could be hitting the discard pile through use of that Giant Hearth. Give him that energy attachment that he wants. He wants to get 6 energies onto a Reshiram and Charizard by the second turn. If he can do that, then he's in a fantastic spot. He's also starting to thin down a little bit, so if he pulls these fire energies out of his deck, we could see him go for an aggressive route, but looks like he's just going to go with that nice safe route here. Leave himself an open bench space in case he wants to do Dedenne or however it ends up working over the next couple turns.
Yeah, it's still likely to be a Jirachi more than likely, but still keeping himself open to the potential options here. Now, Energy Spinner will be the first item played here from Chrisowalantis, as he does go second, and it is his first turn of the game, so he'll be finding himself 3 energy cards. Very powerful effect in this particular case.
Yeah.
Gardevoir and Sylveon GX, we're seeing how Fairy Song can really accelerate you. And, you have to be kind of like breathing a sigh of relief here if you're Chrisowalantis. You took a pretty big risk by choosing to go second, but you knew that it could pay off if Philip didn't have that explosive start he had game 1. It's not expected to see 6 energy in play on turn 2.
Yeah.
And it was just an anomaly. And it just so happened that it happened against Chrisowalantis in game 1. But he chose to shrug that off, chose to say, I don't expect for you to be able to pull this off again. If I can get too many energy on the field for you to handle, then I give myself the best possible chance to win this game and this match. And that's the strategy Chrisowalantis chose to employ this time around. And now we're seeing a Cherish Ball out of him to find himself a third Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GXs. Those, once again, are the only Pokemon he plays on his deck.
Yep, he did have that coach trainer, so able to find 4 cards, and finally starting to see some of these tag team Pokemon. This was what really messed with him in that opening turn. He wasn't able to find anything helpful for himself. Also, from his prize cards, I remember seeing 2 Greens Exploration. Finding that card can be so impactful to how your game goes, and really, usually you chain them together. You'll start to find one piece and then get a little bit here, a little there. And
Sure.
when you prize 2, it's so difficult. But fortunately for him, was able to find a Greens Exploration off that. It's sitting in his hand right now. Definitely expect to see that in the coming turns.
Also, this deck kind of plays the way that you expect the Greens, Reshiram, and Charizard deck to play. It plays very similarly. It wants to just let that Gardevoir and Sylveon just keep staying alive, and not get knocked out, and finding ways to just keep healing the damage off. Now, with that said, if we ever see 6 energy on a Reshiram and Charizard, then that strategy is right out the window, as it's going to be taking too much damage and it'll get KO'd in one hit. But that's really kind of one of those little side stories that are being told here between these two players as they're vying for position, jockeying for position here, hoping to be able to, pull ahead of the other ones, pull so far ahead of the other one that the other player cannot come back. But in the meantime, we're just seeing this energy acceleration game plan out of Chrisowalantis, and we're seeing Philip Schulz, kind of struggle to find his own energy acceleration. He plays welder. He has ways for him to find himself more than one energy, to find himself with more than one energy being attached to his Pokemon on any particular turn, but it just didn't work out for him on turn 1 this game.
So we know that Philip does have the fire energies available to him if this Pokegear is able to find him a welder.
Well, there it is. The welder right away.
Look at the rest. Yeah. This is, oh, cool.
The ideal card I was looking for. Say no more. And, you can't help but just smile and try to shrug it off if you're Chrisowalantis.
Man, come on. He was able to dodge it on the first turn, not the second, though.
I'm sure these players have played each other, plenty of times before. They are country mates, and, they're both here at the World Championship, so that they've fought hard to get here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now Philip has 3 energy on his Reshiram and Charizard GX. Will he choose to attack with it now or keep it in the wing?
Honestly, attacking's not terrible here. If you get 230 damage onto this Gardevoir and Sylveon tag team, it sets up for an Outrage knockout, so you can get yourself in a pretty reasonable spot there. But sometimes you just want to go for that big 300, so he might just want to hold out till then. It looks like he's going to at least wait one more turn. May not have had a way to retreat as well.
Yeah, he may not have an escape board. He may not have a switch. It feels like he's just, playing it extremely slow, especially compared to last game. But at the same time, putting 4 energy on your Reshiram and Charizard and just kind of having it wait there is incredibly threatening. It's so dangerous, and you don't feel comfortable if you're Chrisowalantis, right? You're sitting there just like starting to sweat bullets, hoping that your opponent doesn't have another welder and doesn't have another one-hit KO on your tag team, which just, these things don't happen, right? You don't deal 260 damage or more in one hit.
Yep. Setting up for a Magical Wand. If he can remove this Jirachi from play, and maybe if it doesn't see another Jirachi, he could get himself in a great spot. Maybe he finds another one of those power plants, and he can stop a potential Dedenne from coming down off of a top deck. Then he's in a spot where Philip really is completely reliant on top decks from that stage forward. So we'll have to see what the plan is for Chrisowalantis. Obviously, it's going to start with a couple of these energies coming into play, so has to play this nice, slow approach with Fairy Song, get all these energies in. But I think we're seeing both players starting to rev up into a big finish over the next couple turns.
Yeah, I think we've seen both strategies be employed here, right? Like, we've seen both of these players do exactly what they were hoping to do, and now it's up to us to now witness whose strategy is going to come out victorious in this particular case. One thing I was really looking for, and I was glad to see out of Chrisowalantis' deck, was a Super Scoop Up. I was thinking that could end up being a very pivotal card here in this matchup if your opponent ever tries to deal 230 damage to you and hope that that's enough.
Yep. If
you can land a big, crucial Super Scoop Up, then you're just going to be not only mitigating the damage from your opponent's previous turn, but taking the front, putting your opponent on the back foot, taking the lead in a prize exchange potentially with a key Super Scoop Up heads.
Yep.
Now, granted, that does require not only drawing the card but also flipping heads on it. But if he can pull that off, it's going to be a very pivotal turn and crucial moment in the match.
In combination with cards like Tag Switch, that scoop up that you're talking about is very impactful, but he's also can use this for aggression. He's going to take 2 energies and move them to his active Pokemon, has the double custom catcher. He's going to be able to land some pretty important damage onto that Reshiram and Charizard tag team, and can set up maybe for a huge rotation of these energies one more time and set up a 200 damage knockout and removal of all of these cards from the hand. We'll just have to see what Chrisowalantis decides is more important.
That double custom catcher forcing that Reshiram and Charizard into the active position. Now, Philip was holding on to that. Philip was keeping him out of harm's way for as long as he could. But now that we're seeing the double custom catcher kind of force it up into the active position, and now dealing 150 damage onto this Reshiram and Charizard before it's able to deal with any type of effects or damage is just not comfortable here for Philip, as all of his eggs are in that one basket. And now we're seeing the side effect of this Gardevoir and Sylveon GX's attack is now he gets to maneuver his energy however he chooses, and it's up to him to figure out exactly what he expects to see out of Philip's following turn. Choosing to put 2 energy onto his active Gardevoir and Sylveon, threatening a potential Kaleidostorm Storm on the following turn.
This was very smart by Philip, leaving that open bench space. This means that if he wants to start setting up another Reshiram and Charizard, he does have access to that. He also could just go all in with his current Reshiram and Charizard, take a 300 damage knockout, and hope that really messes with what Chrisowalantis is trying to do here.
At this point, though, you are running thin on resources, right? If you're
Absolutely.
Philip. Like, you've played a few welders, you've had to find ways to bring them back. You're just kind of emptying your hand at this point and hoping that it's going to be able to produce enough damage to pull you out of this situation. But now Acro Bike seems to be the card found by Jirachi.
Oh,
needs to pull a lot of weight with these little effects.
He got to see 5 cards and was only able to find Acrobike. Acrobike could potentially find him a card like Pokegear or Welder, but would really love to have seen that off of the Jirachi Stellar Wish. Gonna have to see how this works out
All
for
right,
him.
Acrobike finds himself, well, finds himself a Ninetales, I believe.
Yeah, so he can switch around.
I mean, kind of irrelevant right now, right? But
he could maybe buy a little time, bring up that other Gardevoir and Sylveon with no energies.
that's true. That's one potential.
That's a lot of resources to use.
Choosing, well, not choosing, but being forced to only play one energy onto his Reshiram and Charizard GX. Just has so many energies in his hand and just the Pokemon communication. Just yeah.
By the time.
Yeah, forced into this play really, and that's just to hope that you can buy time. Remember, we've mentioned that there's super scoop ups. We've seen tag team switch already. Tag switch already. So we've seen that Chrisowalantis does have ways out of that situation.
Yep, he does play multiple of those. I believe he plays 3, so there is
it's a very important card in this
potential
deck.
for him to start to rotate those up. He could remove another Jirachi from play, but no, just going to accelerate some energies. And I don't think Philip woke up there.
No, he didn't actually. And normally that wouldn't be too big of a deal. You know, you have a skateboard, you have things like that. But when your hand is so bad and you need so much help, you just do not want to have to rely on more help in order for you to start becoming aggressive. Now, remember, Philip is forced to give up resources turn after turn, as Ninetales' ability does not come cheap. So these are just more cards that you're going to need to find throughout your turn.
He's taken every fire energy out of his deck. He's down to about 15 cards in deck, maybe a little more. And he's just going to have to try to bring together the pieces. This is a match where you can certainly do that. Being that your opponent's playing all tag team Pokemon, just 2 big knockouts is going to get you there.
He finds a Welder, though.
That's huge. That's exactly what he needs to find. Your opponent's already used 2 custom catchers as well. You've seen a greens come down, and you didn't see a second one, so may not have access to finding the rest of those custom catchers. So maybe we could see him attach those energies to the Reshiram with 4. Probably more likely we're going to see it to the Reshiram with 1, but how many energies does he have left? Is he going to have to rely on all these Fire Crystal top decks, or how is this going to work for him?
We're going to need some help out of these 3 cards drawn here by the Welder. We do see the additional attachments here from Philip.
There's Fire Crystal,
Finds
too.
the Fire Crystal. Huge pickup here for himself. Fire Crystal was about as important as cards came. And remember, I believe he discarded 2 at the beginning of this game, right?
Yeah, I believe this was the game where he lost 2 right off the bat. So very important that he was able to find that one here.
So because of that, he's down to very few resources. I don't even know if he can afford to keep using Ninetales' ability anymore.
Yeah, I think he's he did as much as he could with that in the spot. He does have a Pokegear in hand, so he's set up for Welder plus Double Blaze for that huge knockout to start taking his prize cards.
Right.
But from that point on, it's going to be kind of weird to take knockouts.
What he did not have was a way to bring that Jirachi back to the bench, as it's forced to just stay in the active spot. It does finally wake up at the end of his own turn, but still too little too late, as now Philip Schulz was forced to pass the turn over to Chrisowalantis, and now we see a lot of energy on the field for Chrisowalantis, and we see a lot of energy on the field here for Philip, but neither player has really struck the first blow yet.
It's scary. You know that Chrisowalantis has this ability that he can just completely take away all of the energy, all the cards in your hand if he uses his GX attack. And at the same time, Philip has this just sheer aggression, that 300 damage output that he has. So both players kind of just feeling each other out, trying to figure out when the best time to attack is. And I think the longer that we wait, we're starting to see that window open up for Philip even more.
All right.
Oh,
now,
greens.
Greens exploration. Finding Chrisowalantis. Any 2 trainer cards here.
Switch and a tag switch.
Oh my God, such a powerful card here is Green's exploration.
I think he's going to use his GX attack here if he can set that up. Does he have a way to get out? He's going to use that switch to get out of the active spot. Has that tag switch as well. We're going to see the 6 energies move up to the active spot. Holy moly!
Okay, well, Magical Miracle GX is going to be the attack for the turn. that Magical Miracle will not only deal 200 damage, but it will also put all of Philip Schultz's cards back into his deck, shuffle that deck up, and knock out the only Jirachi he had in his side of the field. So now, despite having 8 energy in play and Chrisowalantis only having taken 1 prize, you have to feel like this is just about as powerful a play as Chrisowalantis could have had.
Right.
And outside of something like a top deck Dedenne, it's just going to be so difficult for Philip here to get any sort of momentum going anymore.
So one big thing is that he was not able to get rid of that Giant Hearth. If he was able to find Power Plant, he would have been able to stop that Dedenne from coming down. Of course, we saw that Dedenne wasn't possible, but this did open up the window for Philip to just find 2 Fire Energies, which, as least impactful as that seems, it's actually pretty important. He needs to get an energy onto his Reshiram and Charizard, set up for that huge double blaze. If he can get rid of all these energies too, that'd be great, but I think we know what's coming in the future turns is the Kaleidostorm can just move those energies around however he sees fit. He's going to have to start getting aggressive a little earlier than he wants. We're going to see 230 damage coming down onto this Gardevoir and Sylveon tag team here.
And that is 6 energy on this Gardevoir and Sylveon tag team, so that's the majority of your energy in play. But at the same time, that's all Philip could muster up. If you're Chrisowalantis, you have a lot of options available to you. You've already played your first Greens explorations. You likely have a handful of item cards that could potentially heal you, or at least move the energy away from this Gardevoir and Sylveon GX. And of course, we do have the Kaleidostorm attack, which is going to be able to pull that off. Yes, your opponent might be able to get a knockout onto this Gardevoir and Sylveon if you don't have a super scoop up to remedy this. But I mean, you still feel fine, right? Like, your opponent still has only a Fire Energy in hand. He's going to need a lot of help.
Yeah, is able to find that. He finds the power plant. So potential top decks are limited now from Philip's side of the board. Also, I don't think he has any Fire Energies left, but just removing that Giant Hearth feels good, getting it out of there.
So, because this Reshiram and Charizard is undamaged,
wow.
There's those great potions I was hoping for. That is really huge here for him.
Yeah, we're going to see the retreat, and he's got the tag switch as well. Could also take a turn off if he wants to.
Does he have the tag switch?
Yeah.
He does have the tag switch.
Yeah. I think that's the 3rd one. So these energies now only going to be manipulated from effects such as the Kaleidostorm.
So that's huge for him, right? Like, that's now 150 damage onto this Reshiram and Charizard. Both of these Reshiram and Charizards are about to be knocked out with a single other attack. I mean, we're seeing this Gardevoir and Sylveon tag team deck finally show what it can do, as we're seeing a really fast turn here from Philip, as he's forced to just play an energy pass. Doesn't really have too many other options available to him.
Philip is slowly setting up a really cool turn with his Victini, if you haven't noticed. He's being very subtle about it, but if he can get enough Fire Energy in the discard, he could set up a way to get like a little sneaky knockout in there. And
but the problem is that it's, I mean, I know you're saying that he's being subtle about it, and you're right, he is, but at the same time, it's like, there's a reason why there's 2 energy on a Victini, right? And I believe Chrisowalantis will be able to sniff that out. Now, whether he'll be able to pull something off,
about it, though? Yeah.
Whether he'll be able to do something about it is going to be a different story. Now we see that 3rd potion, Great Potion, now being played. Green's Exploration can find him any 2 trainer cards. We've seen this before. Seen how powerful this card can be in this deck.
1 custom catcher.
That's never a good sign if you're Philip.
And the super scoop up.
Does he play something like a reset stamp? I'm sure he does, right? Well, I guess we'll have to find out. I know that
his GX attacks are
I know that he relies on Magical Miracle, but then once your opponent knocks out one of your tag teams, you want to be able to kind of manipulate your opponent's hand right over again. But at the same time, who knows? This is going to be a razor-thin finish here between these 2 decks, as they've had a very long, drawn-out Game 2 as compared to, the incredibly fast and decisive Game 1 victory from Philip.
Yeah, that super scoop-up flip honestly might have sealed it. That was very, very impactful. Just being able to remove the damaged Pokemon so that Philip's not able to set up like knockout on the active, and then Ninetales bring up that last Pokemon and take this big win. I don't think that window is available to him now. He has a way to shuffle in all these energies.
He shows the custom catcher, double custom catcher and fairy. He's hoping to get a scoop so that we can go to a game 3 and have enough time. Looks like Philip obliges, and we are going to game 3 between Chrisowalantis and Philip Schulz. And, you know, it felt like I blinked and I missed it. I looked for the reset stamp, I turn around, and then I'm like, wait, where's all the damage? Where's all the damage? What kind of sleight of hand is this Chrisowalantis? And turns out Super Scoop Up was played while I was looking for that reset stamp. And it ended up being huge. It ended up being the reason why Philip had to scoop up his cards. I mean, that's just the power of, you know, having these big, bad tag team GX attackers. He found a way to not only have, you know, a whole lot of hit points, but have relevant attacks and have ways to be able to keep, you know, these Pokemon from being knocked out. So that's the one big thing that this Gardevoir and Sylveon deck does. It does it really well, too. It does not give up prizes easily. With that said, we've seen how Philip, you know, kind of shrugged that off game 1 and said, well, you might not, you know, be used to taking 260 plus damage in one attack, but let me show you how it can be done. And if he can pull that off again in game 3, then this could very easily go in Philip's favor. However, we've seen how his deck can stumble. We see that Reshiram and Charizard, despite being as powerful as it is, does have a lot of weaknesses when it comes to its consistency. It relies so heavily on being able to find these welders, being able to find multiple energies with these welders, and that's just a lot to ask of a deck, you know, game in and game out, especially throughout an entire weekend.
Yeah, that's right. So we see both players getting set up for this final game that we have. Both players actually opening up with a mulligan. It makes a little more sense for Chrisowalantis to not find Pokemon. He only plays those 4 tag team Pokemon in his deck. And honestly, do you think that Philip would ever choose to go second in a spot like this, knowing how much his opponent likes going second?
So that's interesting, right? Like,
right?
I think Philip is going to choose to go first because that's kind of, you know, being one of the professional players, you kind of have like this mindset that, like, you know, going first is
it's always right?
Exactly, it's always right. Like,
until your opponent goes second, and you're like, wait, why?
You know, I think if you're Philip, you've already seen how powerful you can be if you go first. But here we see a Fire Crystal, Heatran GX, a couple of Fire Crystals actually. That's, you know, some pretty dangerous prizes here from Philip.
They're actually pretty helpful, honestly. Like the way that you kind of want to draw Fire Crystal in that mid-ish game, and the way that it's positioned there, it's pretty helpful. If he just draws it in the right spot, he's going to be drawing 3 prizes at a time. So if he's able to get it, you could see him definitely make use out of that. Maybe a Ninetales comes in and he gets that big swing that he wants.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, having those 2 Fire Crystals definitely could prove to be dangerous if you can't find.
Chrisowalantis is just going to burn the rest of the clock looking for a Pokemon.
Yeah, no kidding. The good news for them is that game 1 was over so fast that we have plenty of time for game 3 right now.
Yeah, and both players playing huge tag team Pokemon. These games can end quickly. It just really depends on when they choose to get aggressive. As soon as one person decides to go, everyone's got to go. You gotta keep up with your opponent, and hopefully you have the last finishing shot.
We got fairly lucky to see very few mulligans out of Chrisowalantis in the first couple of games.
Right.
So
now he's showing it off.
Yeah. Now we're just making up for due for, you know, for the time that we
all right. If
were given earlier on.
He needs to start playing copycat in his deck so that he can take advantage of all these mulligans.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I think we've seen like 4 mulligans at this point.
Right.
And that's 4 additional cards that are going to be going into Philip's hand. That's a really large incentive to go first for the record.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. It almost guarantees the fact that your welder is going to hit, and it's going to hit with 2 energies. Just giving this deck more fuel is one of the scariest things you can do. And man, here we go mulligan, again.
Yeah. I mean, that's the 4th, 5th, I believe 5th mulligan in a row. I mean, you're talking about a 12-card hand.
It's funny how Philip's face kind of changes throughout all this. He's like, all right, mulligan's cool. He's like, all right, can you please just start the game at this point?
Yeah, at this point, he's like, I have plenty of cards. I just want to have enough time to be able to finish this 3rd game.
You almost get to a hand size where you don't
mulligan.
want to use Dedenne anymore because you'll just throw away too many resources.
All right, so now I did get to see the update. It is 5 mulligans now, officially. 5 mulligans, Kyle. That's 5 additional cards.
Is it?
Well, I mean, if my math's not wrong, if my math's not wrong, it's been wrong before, but in this particular case, I am willing to go all in.
I trust you on this. And he very respectful. His opponent gives him the nod. He's just, all right, I got one. It doesn't matter if it's in the first 3 cards. Yeah, we got one. Let's just start playing this game.
Prize is coming down. Sea of Greens.
Here we go.
This is fine, yeah. This is some pretty good prizes, and we are getting ready to kick Game 3 off. Remember, Philip Schulz won Game 1 in convincing fashion on the second turn of the game, and then Chrisowalantis came back and counterpunched with a very long, drawn-out Game 2 victory, showing exactly what the deck can do if given enough time. But remember, Philip had to lose a lot of momentum in the early turns and did not have the aggression that he had in Game 1. Now, Philip chose to go first. He did choose to follow common logic and common theory, which is that you always want to go first. You always want to be able to get the first turn of supporters in.
He didn't outthink himself in the think tank.
Right. And those additional cards are really going to help him here as he plays not only Reshiram and Charizard, but also plays a Welder, puts 2 energies onto this Reshiram and Charizard. That's an explosive start here for Philip. And if he can find another energy and set himself with 3, leave himself with 3 energy on the field before the end of his turn.
Finds the Giant Hearth. That's huge.
Yeah, Giant Hearth is a big one, but he still does not have that 3rd energy. He really does want to have that 3rd energy. Well, yeah, if he plays the Giant Hearth, obviously, but until he actually does so. Now, let's see. Looks like he's going with a Jirachi. Chooses to bench the Vulpix. All right, there is that Giant Hearth. Is he gonna use it now? Remember, wants to get 3 energy on the field for that Reshiram and Charizard.
Yep, just has to decide how he wants to do this. I love the discard of the Jirachi. It looked like he was potentially eyeing up the reset stamp as the discard, but I feel like that card can get so much use. If your opponent uses an early greens exploration, you can just remove that potential obvious supporter that they'll likely give themselves. In that situation, you can put them on a 6-card hand or maybe a 3-card hand, depending on how the game's going. And certainly, Chrisowalantis could just miss, and then we see Philip run him over.
Stellar Wish, find himself a switch.
That's a great card to find. It means that he'll be able to get himself out of the active spot on the coming turn. Just depends if he's able to find enough fire energies to keep up with this double welder strategy that has proven so successful for him in the opening game.
Those mulligans are really, really affecting the outcome of the first turn of the game.
Look at how much he's done, and his hand is like 8 or 9 cards still. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so much help here for Philip. And, geez, man, it was all mostly because of those that series of mulligans.
I love it. He's gonna look through his deck with the Giant Hearth. It's a it's a bold call, but I mean he doesn't need any of these charms that he has. They're just not very impactful in a matchup like this. So might as well just use it to get a little information, see what's going on.
Now, does that mean that he didn't have anything in his hand to let him search for this otherwise?
I think he has like a Pokegear or something. I didn't get the best look at his hand, but we'll have to see. If he doesn't, we could see this game end very soon. Yeah,
that's rough, right? Like, normally you want to be searching through your deck on the first turn so that you can find yourself another Gardevoir and Sylveon. Avoid the shenanigans of Game 1 from happening again here in this 3rd and final game. Because of all of those mulligans, we went from having plenty of time to play this Game 3 to having less than 10 minutes remaining here, and the first turn of the game here not being over for Chrisowalantis. Now,
yeah, for not doing much, he took a very long opening turn, and we have not seen supporter or any other card played from him. Honestly, pretty curious to see what he's got going on.
I don't know if he has
here.
Anything.
He's got a Bills.
Okay.
All right. So
it is something.
Yeah, that Bills is going to be able to. He's going to get to look at the top 7, and he gets to pick some trainer cards from that. Looks like he did not find anything very impactful. Just a spinner and a power plant, so he can stop Dedenne from coming down, which could be useful. It really just depends on what Philip needs to take a knockout here, but we did not see another Pokemon come into play. That could just be it.
Yeah, countering Giant Hearth is fine, but a little late there, right? It already got its use there. And yeah, that's it. He's just...
Oh, here we go.
Does Philip have a way to get a turn 2 knockout one more time? Can he pull it off?
Looks through his discard pile and does not see a fire energy. If he finds Welder, I think he's just got it.
Yes. That's a Welder.
So
that's a Welder.
Oh, the Giant Hearth is missing. Okay,
yeah,
so that was a pretty important.
Yep, exactly.
Yes. If he had that available to him, he could have just won the game flat out right there. May need a little help from his friend Jirachi. We'll have to see what else he has going on in his hand.
Power plant still in play.
He may actually have a lot of copies of Welder in his hand. Let's.
Here we go.
Thinning out.
Stellar Wish.
Acrobike.
Acrobike there.
All right.
We've seen Acrobike be the choice before.
Unable to find the Giant Hearth, but this Acrobike could help him out potentially.
Chose to forego the Pokegear. Going for the Acrobike here. Obviously needs more energies. Oh, we've seen that he already has a switch.
He has one energy in hand. Would
Needs
love to see
more.
at least a second one to keep this Blaze alive. Does not find it, but he does find a skateboard and a Jirachi.
He has a switch in hand.
So he's looking to see if there's a way where he could set up switching into a Jirachi and maybe getting out of this, but he would need both of those cards to help him out. Does not have access to them, so just going to discard one.
All right, just going to Welder for one. Which means that I believe we're going to see another turn out of the game here for Chrisowalantis.
Yes.
So the game is not over and the match is not over. But, you know, this is dangerous territory here for Chrisowalantis still.
Absolutely.
We've seen that he does not have access to very many cards. Basically, that Bills had to have helped him, and it just didn't help it quite enough yet. All right, those Welders going right back into that deck.
I fully expect Philip to come up and do a ton of damage to this Gardevoir and Sylveon tag team. He needs to put on the aggression. He saw his opponent grab two pretty useless cards off of his Bill's analysis, just not able to find anything. So maybe his opponent doesn't have another supporter card. You smell blood in the water. You just got to go at this point.
Oh, absolutely. You do not take your foot off that gas pedal. You 100% deal to that 230 damage. Force your opponent into having more resources than he's shown he has.
Draws the scoop up.
The super scoop up is not going to do it. He does have some potions to get himself out of this.
Oh, he's got a coach.
Mess, but he has a coach as well, so he's going to be drawing 4 cards. These 4 cards need to help him out tremendously.
Needs a Pokemon. Oh, he's going slow with it too. I don't see one.
I don't see one. I saw greens, but that's not going to do it. Remember, he still has the GX attack available to him, does Philip. So we're just not seeing what Chrisowalantis is going to need, and I believe we're about to see the hand get extended. It looks like...
Well... Oh, there we go. Honorable way out. He did it.
There it is. The hand is extended. Philip Schulz is the winner as Chrisowalantis chooses to go out on his own terms and plays the super scoop up and gets heads, getting rid of his only Pokemon in play. He really had no other opportunity. His deck just did not cooperate with him in 2 out of these 3 games. And it's a shame, really, because Game 2 was just a very beautiful display of what the Gardevoir and Sylveon deck can do. And you would think it's very consistent, right? It's only Gardevoir and Sylveon. It only plays 4 Pokemon, you know, very few energies.